All right, let's dive into one of the biggest puzzles in the entire Bible, the seals, trumpets, and plagues from the book of Revelation. Now, you might think of them as just this long, scary list of disasters, but what if I told you there's a hidden structure that connects them all in a really surprising way? Today, we're going to unpack an interpretation that does just that.
So here's the big question, right? Are these three sets of judgments just one event after another in a long, straight line? Well, the idea we're exploring today suggests something way more intricate is going on. It points to a single, elegant design that links everything together.
Here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the puzzle itself. Then, we'll start unlocking each layer. The seals, then what's hidden inside that seventh seal, and then what the seventh trumpet reveals. And finally, we'll get to the ultimate purpose behind this entire structure. Okay, so the absolute key to solving this puzzle is to stop thinking about these events like a simple timeline. Instead, this interpretation sees them as a nested structure, kind of like Russian nesting dolls, where each set of events is actually inside the one that came before it. It all kicks off with the biggest, outermost doll, so to speak, the seven seals. This is the main framework, the container that holds everything else. But here's the twist. When that seventh and final seal is broken, it's not the end of the story. No way. Instead, it actually reveals what's inside. It doesn't just end the sequence, it contains the next whole series of 7 events. And that next layer, the one hiding inside the seventh seal, is the sounding of the 7 trumpets. So the first 6 seals are the build-up, and then the seventh seal literally unpacks itself to become these 7 trumpets. And you guessed it, the pattern happens all over again. The first 6 trumpets sound leading up to this huge climax, and when that final 7th trumpet is blown, it doesn't just end there. It unleashes the next, innermost layer of events. That's right, the blast of that 7th trumpet unleashes the 7 final plagues, which you might also know as the 7 bowls of wrath. This is the smallest, innermost doll, the final act that was contained within all the other layers from the very beginning. Okay, so let's take a closer look at that first, outermost layer, the 7 seals. How exactly do they set the stage for everything that's about to happen? So the first 6 seals are really the setup, right? They're building the context for what's coming. But according to this view, the 5th seal is the real pivot point. It describes this time of mass martyrdom, and that event becomes the whole theological reason for the judgments that are about to be unleashed. It's crucial. So if the 7th seal isn't just one more disaster on the list, but it's actually a container for the next sequence, then what exactly is it? What does it really represent? According to this interpretation, the best way to understand the 7th seal is not as a single moment in time, but as the start of a huge divine process, its grand purpose to completely and permanently remove the very possibility of sin from the fabric of the universe. And this is where you can really see that nested structure we've been talking about. The first 6 seals give us the context, and then the 7th seal unfolds as the 7 trumpets. Each trumpet blast is basically another step in that big cosmic process of purifying creation. All right, let's follow that same logic and zoom in one level deeper. What happens when that 7th and final trumpet sounds? What's contained inside this climactic moment? And here we go. The pattern completes itself. The first 6 trumpets build up to this moment, and the 7th trumpet acts as the trigger for the final judgments, the 7 plagues. And this is also when the judgment of that prophetic figure known as the beast takes place. Okay, so this whole intricate, intense, and cosmic structure, it naturally leads to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? Why? What's the ultimate goal of a process that's so dramatic and honestly destructive? Is it all just about punishment? Well, according to this view, the end goal isn't just destruction for its own sake. It's actually about something way more profound, the perfection of free will. This entire dramatic sequence is seen as what's necessary to create a universe where free will can exist forever, but evil can never, ever rise again. This whole theological argument unfolds in 5 logical steps. It's like a chain reaction. It starts with the martyrdom from that 5th seal. That act of sacrifice is seen as proof that God's standard of love is actually achievable. This, in turn, confirms his law is just, which then erases all cosmic doubt about his character. Once doubt is gone, the root potential for sin is eliminated, and, boom, free will is finally perfected.
And the entire logic of that 5-step process really hinges on this one principle right here. The sacrifice of the martyrs serves as the ultimate proof of love. It demonstrates that God's highest command isn't some impossible burden, but a true and achievable standard. That single act resolves the central cosmic conflict and makes a final purification possible. So this timeline kind of puts the whole flow together for us. It all kicks off with the 7th seal, which starts a period of heavenly preparation, described here as incense and atonement. That leads to Christ's initial return, in the air. Then the 7th trumpet sounds, triggering the first resurrection and unleashing the 7 plagues. This is followed by Christ's final coming to the earth for the last judgment, and it all culminates in a final celebration, the Feast of Tabernacles.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. If we reframe this entire complex prophecy not as a story primarily about wrath, but as a story about the permanent establishment of perfected free will, how does that change the way we understand what divine judgment even is and what it's all for? It's a really profound perspective to consider.